All right, friends. I'm going to ask the General Secretary to introduce Franklin James to go over some things around our equity commitments.
Oh, okay. All right. Welcome back, friends. As we talked about yesterday, one of the important components of our life together as a council is to be attentive to concerns of equity, but also in the ways in which we are together. Franklin James serves as the coordinator for the equity team that is part of the council and has served on the planning committee. And I'm going to invite Franklin now to come and to speak to us again around the behavioral covenant.
Greetings once again, friends. It's my delight to stand before you and serve in the capacity of an equity support person. And I'm quite delighted at the apology this morning, and I know many of you are. And so as we continue to do the work of living into our equity aspirations, I have a few words I want to remind you, affirm you, or say to you for the first time if you haven't heard. The Behavioral Covenant of the United Church of Canada is a relational and theological framework guiding the conduct of National Committee members. It reflects Christian values rooted in covenantal relationships with God and with one another. And it is meant to foster mutual accountability, intercultural community, and safer, respectful spaces for discernment and collaboration. This covenant is distinct from workplace policies. It emphasizes character posture and relational integrity over regulation, grounded in scripture, indigenous teachings, including the 7 sacred teachings, a song of faith, and the call and vision of the church. The covenant invites committee members to embody values that honor equity, diversity, and spiritual discipline and collective responsibility. We are invited and are held mutually accountable to participate fully, communicate truthfully, show respect across differences, and remain aware of power, privilege, and exclusion. Chairs and staff are accountable to ensure clarity, safety, training, support, and conflict resolution. Should the covenant be broken, pastoral and procedural pathways are provided for repair and accountability. When lived out, the covenant enables the church to live into its deepest identity, bold, connected, evolving communities rooted in spirituality and daring justice. All participants at General Council are invited to live into the behavioral covenant. There are pop-up notifications in the Chime platform that redirect you to explore more and more about the covenant. So each time you see that pop-up, take a look and remind yourself of what it is that is expected of you first, and then everyone else around you. Thank you for listening to these words.
Thank you, Franklin. Before we go on, I want to acknowledge there's a request for a point of personal privilege from Tina Conlon. So Tina, if you can make your way to a microphone. Are you in the court? Okay, I see you coming to microphone 1.
Chairperson, I rise on a point of privilege in view of the extraordinary news we received today and what we also heard repeated in the podium. The announcement by the Israeli government of imminent plans to ethnically cleanse Gaza of 1 million people. I'm asking, what is the procedure for bringing an emergency resolution to this assembly? I ask this as a commissioner, as I have been told that this cannot be done.
I'll invite the General Secretary to respond.
In our procedural motion, end of day today is the deadline for new proposals. So as a commissioner, you can draft a proposal and get it to the business committee by the end of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I am going to invite Taylor to make a couple of announcements.
Merci, Moderatrice. Friends, we have one equity concern to share with you, and that is about all of your preparation for when someone might speak a language other than English. We aspire to be a functionally bilingual church, but we do recognize that probably about 85% of the language that is spoken in this court is in English. When someone goes to a microphone and they wish to speak in French, we don't want them to feel that they would be deterred because no one is prepared to receive a translation for them. You'll notice we have screens on the sides of the room. Those are only going to be translating into French because it is not responsive enough to switch from French to English when someone goes to a microphone. So we're asking you that in your Chime app, you have your translations turned on and set to English. So if a French speaker begins to parler en français, et vous désirez en comprendre, you need to have English set on your Chime, and then you'll be able to see what they are saying. So I invite you to do that in preparations for not only time in here, but potentially in discussion group time as well. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you, Taylor. At this time, I will invite Kenji Marui, Chair of Business, to come to the floor.
Here you all are. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kenji Marui. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm here as chair of the Business Committee. We will use our time here now to ensure that we understand the issues and actions requested of General Counsel by the proposals submitted that are related to daring justice. Clarifying questions are about understanding the intent of the proposal and not debating its wisdom. Such questions clarify the what exactly are we talking about of the proposal and not whether or not it's a good idea in the first place. Now, some of this work has already unfolded online through Chime, and doing a cursory review of the questions asked and answers offered, most activity related to matters of Palestine-Israel and medically assisted death. The online question submission deadline was the end of July, and further questions may have arisen since then. Now, if you are somebody that's been designated to answer these clarifying questions, please follow along in the syllabus document that was prepared yesterday, I guess. That seemed a long time ago, and move to the side of the stage. We'll invite you to the podium if questions are asked requiring your response. Now, anyone wishing to ask a clarifying question, please use the Speak to the Floor option in Chime found under the Engagement heading, and move toward one of the microphones on the floor where the moderator will call upon you when it is your time to speak. And when doing so, again, please begin by sharing your name and regional council. Now, should we find all matters clear-cut, coherent, and comprehensible, and not need the scheduled time, the full amount for clarifying questions, we will proceed ahead in our agenda and extend the time that is available for your discussion groups. So I think our first proposal is the Theology, Interchurch, Interfaith Proposal 02, Revised Principles of Justice, that had been presented, if you can remember, all the way back to the evening of June 28th for our online session. So we didn't really have a chance to engage with clarifying questions at that point in time. And if Jennifer Jansen-Ball is ready nearby, if any questions do come forward.
Are there any further clarifying questions about TICF 02? If you could request to speak to the floor.
I think I did.
Emma, did you press the thing? Okay, so you just have to wait for a second because the equity team populates the list for me. All right, I'm still waiting for the list to come up on the monitor. All right, Emma, thank you for your patience.
Worries, moderator. Emma Simone, Prairie du Pine Regional Council. I was wondering if you could clarify how you see ecological justice represented in these principles and how it follows from like the One Earth community and some of the formal ecological justice frameworks that we've had in the past.
Thanks for the question. In fact, ecological justice has been added in a few places in both the preamble and in some of the explanatory text for the principles themselves. Sometimes it's not ecological justice as those exact words, but we reference, for instance, God's beloved creation, continuing to affirm the importance of living with respect in creation. So those commitments have been reflected more explicitly in the text that is now before the General Council.
I recognize Liz McKenzie, who I'm assuming is at microphone 3.
Thank you, moderator. Liz McKenzie from Shining Waters Regional Council, and I am a commissioner. I am unclear about how these guiding principles end up informing what might come out of the United Church regarding responses to current situations, because I don't understand the part where I don't understand the connection with policy. I understand that they're helping make us more responsive, but is it bypassing the polity completely? Like, would the principles help form a response that would go to General Council Executive, for instance, to actually come up with what ends up being a stand or a policy from the United Church? I'm confused about the interaction there.
Thanks, Liz. So this is part of the culture shift, I think, that we're about in the United Church. a shift from a policy-based approach to our justice work means, first of all, I'll say that our policies around justice mean that they provide the framework and confines within which we respond to issues of justice. That doesn't always enable us to respond more quickly as particular situations related to that justice issue might change, new information might come to light, and it doesn't enable us to respond as quickly as we might want to. The principles, the shift to principles will enable us to respond more quickly while still having a framework that is agreed upon by you as commissioners of General Counsel, but will enable then staff and national committees, including the Executive of General Counsel, to potentially make statements and engage in advocacy beyond what our policy might have limited us to in the past. It's a way that we are trying to be more attentive and responsive to the issues before us in, as we've all been experiencing, a very fast-changing world. So the principles are meant for the national church. They are free to be used by regional councils and committees and local congregations, but they are meant to be the framework and guide for the national church. They do not erase the policies that we currently have or the significant commitments that we have made through various documents, as the previous commissioner made mention of. They are built and founded on those documents, but they will allow us to, again, as I said, be more responsive and can take us beyond what some of our policies might have limited us to in the past.
Seeing no more requests to speak to the floor, we can move on.
Right, then our next proposal is the General Secretary 07, updated apology for United Church participation in residential institutions.
Do you have any clarifying questions about proposal GS07, updated apology? If you could request to speak on Chime and then move to the microphone. And if you are joining online, you just need to request to speak to the floor. Just looking to the equity table to see if we have any requests coming in. All right. Seeing no questions, we can move on to the next proposal.
And our next proposal is related to the next. I made. Okay. We'll follow what's on the screen there for you. Pacific Mountain 04, facing every emotional limit.
All right, are there any questions of clarification regarding PM04? All right, seeing none.
Shining Waters 04, Harm Reduction Sunday.
Are there any clarifying questions regarding Harm Reduction Sunday, Shining Waters 04? Jeffrey Dale is here from Shining Waters to answer your questions if you have any. All right, I recognize Cal Reynolds. Will be at microphone 1.
Hi, my name is Cal Reynolds. My pronouns are he, him. I am a Youth Forum delegate from the Western Ontario Waterways region. My question was just about the I like this proposal. I think it's very important. I was wondering about some of the more specific local impacts that you were hoping that this proposal might have.
Great, thank you, Cal, and thank you for your important question, because I think one of the things that we might not understand is those of us that are engaged in harm reduction have a lot of conversations across this church and across this country. And one of the things that I was seeing after the proposal that was passed, the resolution that was passed in 2022, was that there were people that were grateful that this church took a stance in support of harm reduction and the decriminalization of illicit substances, but they still experienced a great deal of stigma in their churches and marginalization and isolation of people who utilize illicit substances. And so one of the things that they were expressing to me was that if this General Council sat together and said, yes, there is a Sunday where you and your church can talk about this and has the authority of the church in order to do that, they would then feel comfortable in their community of faith to speak out and to share those pieces. And so it becomes for me quite an important piece where we as a body that are representing across the country are inviting communities of faith where they may struggle with this conversation to say the church as a body has your back. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other requests to speak to this proposal, we can move to the next one. Thank you, Jeffrey.
We continue in our theme of wellness and health. Canadian Shield 01, a call for full inclusion and pastoral support for individuals accessing medically assisted MAID, under Track 2.
All right, Stephen Loweth will be the designated responder. And if you have a request to speak to the floor with a clarifying question, I invite you to request that in Chime now.
Oh, wait, just in Chime?
You requested? Okay. Roshaven at microphone 3. No? Roshaven? Not at microphone 3. Microphone 1.
I would like some clarity on the name, because everything that I have read about this MAID 2 is the word is track, T-R-A-C-K, not T-R-A-C-T. So my question is, why is it a T instead of a K?
Because it is. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why. This was just brought to me as being tracked with a T. And if you think that's wrong, then we can change it to a K. I'm just...
All right, I see Sarah Kerwin at microphone 3, and then David Wally also at microphone 3.
Thank you, moderator. Sarah Kerwin, Pacific Mountain Regional Council. I am a commissioner. I would like some clarification on, under question number 1, what is the issue? The question first is, the way this reads sounds as those who are suffering from severe psychological or mental health conditions are encompassed under Track 2. Can you just clarify that piece? And if not, I can maybe help.
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as I've been told, that's where it is going to be put. And I believe that when it comes to psychological and mental health, that's something that is ongoing and hasn't been approved yet. I believe that's coming out in 2027. But that's the track that it would be part of. Thanks. Thank you.
David Wally.
Dave Wally, Living Skies. I don't know if this is a point of a clarification, but it's something that's very dear to me is in the last 18 months, I've been called to the bedside for a person using MAID. And in 2 of those situations, the family was divided, badly divided, and the patient was at a loss of what to do. And I was wondering, while this resolution, this is being discussed, has the United Church ever thought of maybe giving some education to the ministers, especially those of us in rural areas where we don't have access to professionals?
Thank you for your question, and that is something we're asking. You want to come up? Jennifer just informed me that that some has been offered through some of the different regions as well. And number 3, under what is the recommendations, asking the United Church to provide education resources to clergy and congregations to support individuals discerning or seeking MAID, particularly those with mental health conditions or those making advance requests. I hope that helps.
I had a request from Marty Tyndall.
That's actually me, because my chime isn't working.
Oh.
And she sits next to me at my table.
Thanks, Marty, for, so I recognize Katie Avon.
Katie Avon, Bermuda, Nova Scotia region. I'm a commissioner. I have a clarifying question related to Sarah Kirby's. Is track 2 of medical assistance in dying legal in our country now?
That's a very good question. You know what? I can't answer that right now. I'm sorry. I would have to look that up a little bit. Sorry.
So the General Secretary's quick Google skills shows that it is currently available.
Okay. Thank you.
I also see Sarah Kerwin raising her hand, and also somebody raising their hand at the 4th microphone, but I don't see requests to speak, so. But in the interest of time, Sarah, do you have the answer to the question? Is that what you're volunteering?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I recognize Sarah Kerwin.
Track 2 is legal in Canada,
right,
but it does not include persons who have severe psychological or mental illness.
Correct.
That is a very important clarification for this proposal. A person whose sole reason for requiring MAID being a psychological or mental illness is not currently eligible, although the proposal unfortunately reads that way. So that's a really important clarification.
So, Sarah, I have one more quick clarification that might help. Clarifying question for you, which is, if there is a track 2, but it doesn't include the psychological issue, then what is track 2?
My understanding, and the wording will probably not be quite right, it is for those deemed to be suffering but not have imminent death.
So it would be physical suffering rather than
physical.
psychological.
And it could be that a person who has physical suffering also suffers with a psychological or mental illness and may qualify under track 2, but not for someone such as myself with bipolar disorder only.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks, Sarah. And I just found it too in the background information that Canadian law distinguishes between track 1, where natural death is foreseeable, and track 2, where suffering is intolerable but death is not imminent, just as Sarah just said. But under here it says the church's engagement with MAID has largely focused on track 1 and not track 2.
Thanks, Stephen. Kathy Yamashita, microphone 4.
Kathy Yamashita from Lethbridge, Alberta, Chinook Winds region. I am a commissioner and a family doctor. and I just want to confirm the practical application of Tract 1 and Tract 2 is that MAID was denied to one of my patients who has a psychiatric disorder, but patients with life-threatening illnesses have been approved.
Thank you, Kathy. I see no more requests to speak on, to ask clarifying questions on this proposal. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks for your questions.
We'll move on into the category or grouping of proposals related to Palestine and Israel with an internal focus within our own church organization, with Bermuda, Nova Scotia 02, as well as Fundy St. Lawrence, Dawning Waters 01, development of a post-Gaza theology.
Thank you, and thank you to Steve Barbe from the Atlantic regions to act as our clarifier. If you have clarifying questions relating to these two proposals, if you could request to speak now. All right, Hannah Polasek. Polasek. Oh, Hannah Polasek. Okay, microphone 4.
I'm just wondering, I have 2 questions. The first one is, how long is the task group gonna last?
Thanks for the question. I have no idea.
Okay, so like, is there a final destination, or is it for the foreseeable future?
It's for the foreseeable future, and the reality is that as the proposal was being drafted several months ago, we had no idea of what was going to happen in Gaza at the time. Just as we have no idea what's going to happen in the coming months. And so it is so hard to determine, but we do know that in situations such as this, as in post-World War II, for example, we had to re-examine through a theological lens our understanding of what had transpired and where do we stand in terms of this. So I don't know, that doesn't directly answer your question, I know, but hopefully it sets a bit of a context.
No, that's exactly kind of what yeah, that's a solid answer. I forgot to say where I'm from. So I'm from the Prairie to Pine region, and I'm a commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Next, I recognize Susan Johnson, microphone 1.
Susan Johnson, Pacific Mountain Regional Council, and I'm a commissioner. So this is under number 3, what is the recommendation? I'm just curious that the General Council form a task group beyond the theology and interfaith, beyond the TICIF. I'm just curious about why it needs to be beyond the TICIF.
Thank you, Susan. The intent behind that, and I should have spelled it out in the proposal, was if we can embed this within theological colleges, where there are, as I understand it, some theologians who are United Church theologians who are emerging with a bit of a focus in the idea of the reality of what post-Gaza is going to look like and how that's going to impact us theologically. I think it might be healthy for that to be housed in a setting where some of the people who are going into ministry have the opportunity to explore that, and so that we have theologians. I hold those who are on TICF in high esteem. They have a job that I would not want, just as I don't want to be a theologian. But to have it housed in theological colleges, I think, may be beneficial for us in the long term, similar to some of us would have an understanding of how our view of the situation in Cuba has changed as a result of some of the long-term work that some of the theological colleges have done.
Thank you. I recognize Adrienne Cormier.
Adrienne Cormier, first on Eastern Edge. I'm a lay commissioner. Just to, one definitional question and one question of scope. The definitional question, what is meant by post-Gaza, just in terms of wondering why wondering why the specific modifier of post is chosen? And the second question being in terms of scope, would this be to create a theological response specific to the events in Gaza, or a broader revision of our theology considering the new context produced globally by the events in Gaza?
Thanks for the questions, Adrienne. In terms of why post-Gaza theology, because that's what the Palestinians have named it. That's what they named it as the proposal was being written. That's what they're still referring to it as. But I also know that my friend Omar Harmi, who's the executive director of Sabil in Jerusalem, the Palestinian Liberation Theology Center there, he does not like that term, but Mitri Rehab, who is really the leading scholar in that area. That's what Kairos Palestine named it back when the proposal was being written. So if it changes, we'll let them figure that out. In terms of the field of scope within this, I have no idea. In all seriousness, because this is nascent, it is unfolding before us. We're hearing new information each and every day that changes the context of how people will look at this situation, and I have no idea of where it's going to end up. I just hope that there is a ceasefire that comes in soon, that people are able to receive food, that the famine is relieved, and that starvation is no longer being used anywhere in the world as a weapon of war.
Thank you. Next, Shadia Kubti. Microphone 1.
My name is Shadia. I'm from Pacific Mountain Region, and I'm a commissioner. Steve, I think in continue what Zadrian had asked, I think considering that when it was written, there was a hope that it would be post, perhaps considering alongside Gaza or amid Gaza might be more accurate, considering.
I agree with you, Shadia. Thank you so much for that. And we live in hope.
All right, and lastly, Heather McDougall. I don't see you at a microphone. You no longer request to speak. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, moderator.
Thanks, Steve.
And by the way, I'm from Funday St. Lawrence, Donning Waters.
Thank you. I had a moment where I was like, is it Bermuda, Nova Scotia, or Fundislaw, as one of your colleagues likes to say?
Moderator.
Oh, one more. Okay, we have one more. So, Steve, don't go away. We have one more request to speak from Ross Carson. Microphone 3.
Yeah. Ross Carson from Shining Waters, Commissioner. There was a recommendation in the Toronto newspaper recently about Canada making an intervention in the International Court of Justice with respect to genocide happening in Palestine, in Gaza. So I just thought I was wondering, did that idea originate at all in some of the Kairos documents that are referenced in the background? Is that reporter coming up with a fresh idea, or have some of the church folks already thought about it?
Thanks for that, Ross. I have no idea in any of the supporting documents that I would have cited in the proposal, and my colleagues in the two regions would have cited. There was no mention of that at the time. that has been discussed amongst people, but really it is perhaps something that Tina, who was talking about an emergent resolution coming up later on today, that would be something that might want to be included in that.
And Ross, just if you want to connect with Tina, I see her at table 11. So I see no more requests for clarifying questions related to these proposals. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you again.
Our next proposal for clarification, Shining Waters 05, Peace Through Equal Rights in Israel-Palestine.
All right, and the respondent for this proposal is David Leighton Brown from Shining Waters Region. So if you have any clarifying questions about this proposal, please request to speak. All right, seeing none. All right, no clarifying questions.
The next is Shining Waters 06, the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, IHRA, anti-Semitism definition.
So again, David Leighton Brown is the respondent. I see a question from Heather McDougall. If you could go to microphone 3.
Heather McDougall, Fundy St. Lawrence, Donny Waters Region. I'm a commissioner, and nobody can see me because I'm short. I had to refresh. This is actually for the last proposal. So maybe it's out of order.
It's the same respondent, so I think you can ask from the previous proposal.
Okay, now I have to find the proposal. Just give me a moment, sorry. I had it up, I was in the wrong proposal. Okay, I can't find it. It's in the recommendation. And the first line is about the General Council condemning and lamenting the actions of Hamas. And then it continues on to say that the General Council will, it says the first line is the General Council will condemn and lament the actions of Hamas. And then it continues on to ask the General Council to lament and condemn the actions of the Israeli government. It might be semantics, but to me I don't know why we can't condemn and lament both, rather than lamenting and condemning what the Israeli government has done. Thank you.
Sorry, Heather, do you have clarifying question? So do you have a clarifying question?
I guess the clarifying question is why the proposal has condemn and lament in one part, and then has lament and condemn in the other. Just in lines 1 and 2 of the recommendation.
Thank you, and some people will be aware that this question was asked online, and I responded online that I am not aware of any intent behind the ordering of that language. If there wasn't an intent, it is beyond me.
Thank you, David. And I see Hannah Polasek at microphone 4.
Hannah Polasek from Prairie to Pine Region, Commissioner. My question is, has there been contact with Jewish rabbis and stuff like that in connection to the proposal? You mentioned throughout the proposal that there, a lot of Jewish and stuff kind of things. So I was wondering if there was connection with the people that are being affected by the anti-Semitism.
And again, I cannot go into the detail of all of those who were contacted in its preparation. The language of the proposal indicates that there are a variety of those, including members of the Jewish community, who are in favor of the IHRA definition. How formal the consultation with them was, I'm afraid I cannot respond to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, David. Seeing no more requests to ask clarifying questions on this proposal, I think we can move on.
We move on to Shining Waters 02, affirm the imperative of a Palestinian state.
All right, so if you have a request for clarifying questions, I invite you to request to speak now. All right, seeing no requests to speak, we can move on.
Remaining within the same subject matter, but directing attention externally beyond the United Church of Canada, this proposal, Shining Waters, is 03, calling on Canada to renounce administrative detention of Palestinians.
All right. This is the last Shining Waters proposal. David will respond if there are any clarifying questions. All right. I see no requests to speak. So thank you, David, and Shining Waters Region.
Next proposal, Pacific Mountain 03, arms embargo now signatory.
I'll invite Ingrid Brown to come as the designated clarifier. If you have a question about Pacific Mountain's proposal, if you could please request to speak. All right, seeing no request to speak, we just helped Ingrid get some steps in.
Now, Horseshoe Falls 01, calling on the Canadian government to act for justice in Palestine-Israel.
So we have Sula Kasaki from Horseshoe Falls Regional Council as the designated clarifier. If you have any clarifying questions about this proposal, could you please request to speak? Hopefully you're not waiting for me to say that every time. I will say it every time just to fill the space because it takes a second to populate up to my screen. All right, no requests for clarifying questions for this proposal.
Just got up here. Our next proposal is under the loose category of Christian Witness, Northern Spirit 01, apology from United Church of Canada to African diaspora for slavery and the legacy of slavery in Canada.
So we have Lee Sinclair from Northern Spirit Regional Council as the designated clarifier. If you have any clarifying questions regarding this proposal, please request to speak. All right, we have no requests for clarifying questions on this proposal.
Antler River Watershed 01, rejecting Christian nationalism.
We have Carrie Stover from Antler River Watershed as the designated clarifier. Do we have any clarifying questions regarding this proposal? If you could request to speak. All right, no requests for clarifying questions.
I will just note that Carrie Stover did succeed me in ministry at Calvary United Church in London, did succeed me as chair of business for Antler River Watershed Regional Council, so I don't know what that means for you about this thing here. And a youth commissioner proposal.
Sorry, Carrie, you're not quite done. We had a late request for a clarifying question. So Isaac Kamta, if you could come to the microphone, please. And je pense qu'il va parler en français. Alors, make sure you have your translations open, please.
OK, merci beaucoup. En ce qui concerne rejeter le nationalisme chrétien, je voudrais demander ce que ça signifie exactement. Parce que c'est très large, je n'arrive pas à me situer de quoi il s'agit.
Merci, Isaac. So the question is, what exactly do we mean by Christian nationalism? As it's very large. It's a very large topic.
Thanks for your question. Christian nationalism is defined in the proposal, what it means, where basically those that are Christians, it's only Christians that are favored throughout our nation. And so it's really disregarding any of our Jewish cousins, Muslim, anyone else that is not Christian.
Thank you. And before we go into the next proposal, I will say thank you to the tech team who apparently did manage to get English translation on the side monitors. Peut-être c'est plus facile que quand je sais qui va parler en français. So maybe it's easier if I know we have a francophone commissioner, if I give the tech team a heads up that it's coming in French. All right, Kenji.
Youth Commissioner Proposal 02, Racial Equity Fund. Oh. Nope. Yeah. Sure, that's the slide there, and then we'll get Ingrid lined up for Pacific Mountain 02 next. Sorry, I got my slides mixed up. That's me.
So the proposal is a racial equity fund, Youth Council 02. The designated clarifier is Thea, I know how to say your name, Thea Sheridan Jones. Jonah, oh my gosh. It's coffee time for the moderator. Thea Sheridan Jonah. I see Lawrence Hale. A question from Lawrence Hale. I see him coming to microphone 1.
Thank you, Moderator. Lawrence Hale, Lake Commissioner, Fundy St. Lawrence, Donning Waters. My understanding is that when you dispose of the proceeds from the sale of United Church property is already divided into certain categories where the money should go. With the 5% proposed go into the racial equity fund, how would that balance change? How would the different percentages that are already designated alter if this were to go into play?
Is that a question the General Secretary would want to answer?
Go ahead.
General Secretary?
Good move.
And then, Sarah, if you can come to the microphone, I will recognize you next.
Thanks, Thea. As you know, each region sets up a determination in terms of where the various monies from the sale of properties go. This would be an additional request that an additional 5% of the property sales would go to this fund.
Thank you, General Secretary. Sarah Kerwin at microphone 3, and then I invite Lexi Wright to come to a microphone as the next speaker.
Thank you, Moderator. Sarah Kerwin, Pacific Mountain Regional Council. My question, Thea, sorry, might also be for the General Secretary. I would just like some clarification, please, because it's my understanding that the sale of property is housed under the Regional Council umbrella, and therefore, is it in the rights of the general council meeting to prescribe a percentage that then all regional councils have to adhere to? Or is it that the general council needs to make a recommendation like call 8B mentioned in the proposal to then go back to the regional councils themselves?
I can try to start, and then if there's additional needed, the General Secretary can take it. The language that we have is to create a recommended minimum, and so the job of the General Secretary and the GCO would be to create the national fund, and then hopefully the funding for the national fund would come from 5% of all property sales, but that would be a recommended minimum. I don't think the General Council has the authority to do that, but the General Secretary can confirm.
Could we ask Nicole Trexler to come and sit in our fourth chair up here for a second? And we'll get an answer to that question. And in the meantime, I'm going to invite Lexi Wright to ask the next question.
Can I just double check something and get back to respond to the question so we can take another question while we resolve that?
So Lexi Wright, microphone 2. And if Jeffrey Dale and Michelle Armstrong could also make their way to the microphones, please.
My name is Lexi Wright. I am from Chinookwids region. I am a youth delegate. Just some clarification as well. If it's already answered in the proposal, it's just my misunderstanding. How much of so for the fund, all of the money that is given to that fund will be used for the proposed use in the proposal. Is that correct?
So the proposal makes some possible ways that the fund could be designated, but the vision that the youth creating the proposal had was to create some sort of national fund to more adequately address one of the priorities that is already in our strategic fund. So housing for racialized communities is something we've already stated as a priority. And so the goal with this fund is to create a more long-standing fund that can go into initiatives, and some of the possible initiatives we named was actually support for housing for racialized folks, but other things named are support for food security programs and programs for racialized youth in professional settings, those kinds of things. But the goal or vision is to create the fund and then for the fund to grow as needs grow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lexi. Before we go on to Jeffrey, I'll invite the General Secretary to respond to Sarah's earlier question.
Sorry, folks, I just wanted to double check that my understanding was right. And in terms of the question, so the regional councils have the authority and responsibility around how funds from the sale of property are designated. The General Council, if you were to act on this proposal, you would be encouraging or asking our regional councils to consider this as an option.
Thank you, General Secretary. Jeffrey Dale, and then Michelle Armstrong. And then Sarah, do you have another question, or are you good? Okay, you can go to the microphone. Okay, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Moderator, and thank you, Thea, and the young folks for coming up with this. My question relates to the reality of what we're seeing across this country and in each province relating to international students and the decisions that have been made. And so I read these recommendations and love them, but I am also wondering how might the General Council engage campus ministries or other sort of ministries that exist near campuses across this country to make sure that this can be lived out in such a just way as it will need to be for those that are even able to come to this country.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, can you just introduce yourself and your role again?
Yeah. I always forget that. Jeffrey Dale, Shining Waters Regional Council. Thank you.
I think that was one of our key concerns in writing this proposal, because many of us are students, and so we're watching as international students who are in the same classes as us can't pay for tuition and can't pay for food. And so I think that a really great way that this proposal could be used or partnered is with campus ministries, so having some of the funded be designated to specific programs in partnership with campus ministries. Again, we left it as an open mandate because we don't know the needs that are going to continue to arise, and we know that some of the staff at the national office are doing a lot of survey work in this strategic priority area, so we know there's going to be more data coming to show us where the needs are. And so hopefully international students, especially racialized international students, are prioritized in however this fund looks.
Thank you, Thea. Michelle Armstrong, microphone 4.
Michelle Armstrong, Fundy St. Lawrence, Donning Waters. And my question has to do when we think about building sales. We often think about congregations that are closed or ending. And how do you see this proposal interacting with congregations that are going on to live in a different way or continuing?
Yeah, I think this would be designated specifically for church sales well, I guess we designate it for all church sales, and so that would include churches that are amalgamating, and I think it would be similar to the way that surplus is designated for those properties by the regions already. So it would fall within that existing process, similar to the way that the 10 or 13% is designated to the Indigenous church now.
I'm going to invite Sadia Malik to the microphone, please. Microphone 2.
Hello, Sadia Malik from the Chinook Winds region. I'm a youth delegate, and I just had a quick question about how the recipients would be chosen. So would that be through the General Council, through the individual regions, and even what would the application process look like?
That would be determined by the terms of reference that are created for the fund. So all we did was ask that the General Secretary create this fund, and choosing that designation would be part of creating the terms of reference for it.
Thank you.
So no answer to that yet.
Sarah Kerwin, and I also see a request from Sarah Giles, if you can make your way to a microphone. Sarah Kerwin.
Thank you, Sarah Kerwin, Pacific Mountain Regional Council. Again, I remind my students regularly that if they have a question, someone else in the room has the same question, so I'm channeling that. I'd like to know what the intention of this proposal, is it for all youth anywhere, or is it for youth associated with the United Church? Because that was not clear to me.
Yes. We didn't designate this fund to be specifically for youth. So this fund was created by youth, and with the understanding that a lot of folks who are racialized and experiencing inaccess to housing are youth and are students. But the one place where we did clarify that is the first possible designation. So we said that if there are housing grants or education grants afforded to racialized domestic or immigrant students, we put in brackets that we didn't want this restricted to students who are becoming ministers or who are studying for ministry. We want it open to all students. So if this is a fund that goes specifically to young people, we would want it to be young people who are within and beyond the bounds of our church, and I think that would go for anyone who accesses the fund.
Thank you, Thea. Sarah Giles, and then Ryan McNally, if you can make your way to the microphone. Oh, you're there already. All right, Sarah Giles, microphone 2.
Hi, Sarah Giles. I am from Living Skies region, and I'm a commissioner. I just have a question about when the properties are sold and the money is held by the region, and if they decide to put the 5% towards this housing initiative, would that be held for local to that region housing, or it would go to a national bank?
Right now, it's designated to be a national fund that would then be dispersed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Ryan McNally.
Ryan McNally, East Central Ontario Regional Council, and I'm putting on my hat as co-chair of the Structural Change Evaluation Working Group. This is maybe more for the General Secretary. I'm wondering, is it possible for the General Council to refer a proposal to our working group, since part of our work is to examine how the funding arrangements have worked out since we changed our structure?
General Secretary.
Thanks, Ryan. At this point in time, we wouldn't refer to the task group for action. We would wait for the task group's report in terms of its observation about the funding structures. So if it was passed, I think we would want to consult to see what the task group is doing. And we would need a lot of conversation too with regional councils about this. Does that make sense?
Thank you, General Secretary, and Thea, and Ryan, and all of those who asked questions. I see no more requests for clarifying questions on this proposal.
Thank you.
We'll go to the next slide so I can match my words with what is on the screen. So,
oh, Thea, sorry. We have one more quick question regarding the youth proposal. So Fraser Williamson, if you could make your way to microphone 4. Thank you.
Fraser Williamson, Commissioner from Canadian Shield Regional Council. And when you're answering another question, you said the word all sales. And I'm just clarifying because I've had experiences in my work in the region where a building has been sold and the congregation is now renting from the new owner. And really, I think the word you're probably looking for is when a congregation disbands. And in the case of the congregation that I helped sell the building, they are holding the money in trust until they disband.
I think the way that we have it now is for all sales, and so my understanding would be if the congregation that you're talking about kept their property, there was probably a agreement that happened with the regional council, and that would still happen with this proposal. And if something ended up being sold, the recommendation would still be for 5% to go into the national fund. I'm not sure if I answered the question though.
Yeah, it's just you maybe want to look at it a little bit more, I think, so with that, because there's a difference between a sale and, for example, would be if a congregation sells a manse, there's still an operating congregation, so.
All right. Seeing, again, no more requests for clarifying questions, thank you to Thea and to the Youth Council for their proposal. Kenji.
Yep. So Commissioner 01, proposal, just and lasting peace in the Philippines.
All right, I will invite, there you are. This is Adedeji Akintayo as the designated clarifier. If you have any clarifying questions, so far I see Kim Vidal. If you can come to a microphone. Microphone 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Moderator. My name is Kim Vidal, and I'm a commissioner from the Eastern Ontario Ottawa Regional Council. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the proponents of this proposal because I, as a Filipino, Filipino descent Canadian now, I have actually witnessed the many atrocities in the Philippines during the Marcos regime. But my clarifying question is this. I'm just wondering why recommendation number 4, which states that to commit a commitment for women to participate in the process, I was a bit surprised because I know that there were Filipino women who have very strong presence in the peace process or any kind of deliberations in terms of human rights. I was wondering whether they were not invited on the table or were they shunned away. So I just want to know why number 4 recommendation is relevant for this proposal.
Thank you so much for that. We are looking into the process of inviting women to join in advocacy to make sure that this voice of advocating for justice and peace in Philippines should come to realistic. So we are inviting. The recommendation stated that we are inviting women to come. We are going on learning tour in October, and we are going to use that avenue as well to invite people, especially women. So we don't want to make it a discriminating idea.
All right, thank you. Seeing no more requests to speak, request now to ask your clarifying question or forever hold your peace. Had a couple of people request to speak right as I had dismissed our clarifier. All right, seeing no more requests to speak, thank you so much, Adedeji.
Yep. Now, I did just want to circle back to Pacific Mountain 02, which was truth-telling and reconciliation action. So I think in my revision of slides, I didn't quite do that properly. But this was a proposal that we shifted in our syllabus ordering to follow General Secretary 07, which was the updated apology for United Church participation in residential institutions. GS07 refers specifically to PM02, so we thought that they should go together. Would have made sense if we did that now, but you will do that in your discussion groups coming up.
So there's no slide, but again, the proposal is Pacific Mountain 02, reconciliation and truth-telling in action, and Ingrid Brown is the designated clarifier. Oh, there we have a slide. Thank you. Do we have any requests for clarifying questions? Look at her, she's not even coming. Oh, Sherry Fowler, if you could come to a microphone. Or are you joining online? Oh, Sherry Fowler. Okay, I see you going to microphone 1. And then Adrian Cormier, if you can also come to a microphone.
Sherry Fowler, Table 14, Commissioner, Pacific Mountain Region. So in the proposal it says truth-telling, the reconciliation action, and I just refer to number 2, what is happening now. And in there it states that that announced that the remains of 215 children were found buried. I don't know when this proposal was written, but there's no solid proof that there are children in this residential area that's no longer a school. Because there's no solid proof that there is or there isn't. This is stating that there is. And so I don't know when this was written. Was this This is reflecting on 2021, and I don't, I know there's a lot of information that's come forth since then, and I would like to think that we can do more research into this to find out whether or not, because the Campbell's band has not excavated. The ground penetrating radar cannot depict human remains. So, as a touchy subject, it's got very, very political across our nation. But I just hope that when we actually put this into a proposal, that we know for sure.
Thanks, Sherry. Before Ingrid responds, if I can also call Elda Irina Anderson to a microphone, because I see you on the speakers list as well. So Ingrid.
I'm not sure I totally understand the question, and I think the spirit of both this proposal and the General Secretary's proposal are speaking to the same thing, and that is that as a nation, collectively, we know more things and therefore are trying to live better into our apologies. And it comes from a place of the words are no longer sufficient given that we have significantly more information now. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question exactly, but I don't think I fully understand the question. Do you think that you could ask a clarifying question in a simpler way?
Most certainly. I just would like to know whether they can be altered to take out the 215 children to, as the Campbell's band has stated in their publications, they've changed to anomalies. They're anomalies. They're not 215 children. So to have this updated, there's no proof.
Thanks, Sherry. I think the purpose of this time is for clarifying questions, and I think Ingrid's answered to the best of her ability, and I don't want us to go into discussion onto it, but it's clear, like, I think your point is clear, and there'll be more time for discussion in our discussion groups this afternoon.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right, microphone 4.
Hi, my name is Elda Anderson, and I'm a commissioner from the Six Nations in Ontario. I would like to know the true meaning of what you call truth-telling and reconciliation action.
Thank you for your question. This proposal came to the Pacific Mountain region at the request of the survivors of the Alberni Residential School who sit in circle together, which was a United Church of Canada residential institution. And so these were the words that came from them. I only am taking the action of bringing it to the court of the church because I have the privilege of being able to stand at the court of the church, and so much of the words came directly from them, and so I didn't feel like it was my place to change the words. I know that's not exactly an answer either.
No, that isn't an answer whatsoever. Have you looked into other reserves that had residential schools on them?
General Secretary?
Thank you.
Just to, in the GS07, which is a proposal with regards to an updated apology, part of the strategy would be to have conversation across the country with the various indigenous communities. So while this particular articulation from Ingrid comes from a particular area, The idea is that these two things are the two proposals, this proposal and the General Secretary's proposal, are kind of mirror, and so there would be more conversation across the country with Indigenous communities, not just this specific one.
I heard a lot of it was mostly from the north, northern residential school and the people that you spoke with. Is that true?
I'm sorry, I can't see from here. I can't tell if you're addressing the question to me or to the General Secretary.
Whoever wants to answer.
This one in particular is from Vancouver Island. And so many of the folks who attended residential school in Port Alberni on Vancouver Island were part of other communities outside of Vancouver Island. So there are many nations represented in the circle. But as the General Secretary referred, this was a collective request from that circle that came to the Pacific Mountain region that was sort of an instigating factor, I'll say, for what is now another proposal from the General Secretary that is asking for a more comprehensive, widespread conversation, consultation, and apology.
When will that happen?
I refer that to the General Secretary.
So the proposal is before the court and will be part of your discussion groups, and whatever direction that this court authorizes me as General Secretary, then we will work out a time schedule and a time plan.
Would you ask the courts for, on behalf of the Six Nations, to look into the Brantford residential school on behalf of our reserve? But so far, as my Indigenous people are concerned, your truth and reconciliation is just as empty as the apology. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Elda. Adrian, microphone 3.
Adrian Cormier, Lay Commissioner from First Dawn Eastern Edge. As we've mentioned, these two proposals kind of cover similar ground. Are they mutually exclusive, or I suppose what I'm asking is, could they both be passed, or are we choosing between one or the other?
So you as commissioners have both proposals in the syllabus. As you have conversation, the Way Forward committee will listen to the conversations from across the discussion groups, and they may come up with something similar to what you are suggesting. So it is not ours to predetermine at this point in time. It is yours as a commissioners as you do the work to offer your wisdom and insight around the two proposals.
Yeah. If I may clarify as well, as the one who brought the one to the Pacific Mountain region on behalf of the circle, really open to that, a way forward that brings together the ideas of both in a new way.
And one thing maybe to say is that the moderator and I and the executive minister for Pacific Mountain Regional Council have met with the folks who initially recommended that this work be done. And so we have been attentive to their local concern, but still feel quite strongly that there's a national part of the work that needs to happen.
All right. Kelwin Davies, if there are any other clarifying questions, can you request them now, as we've gone about 20 minutes past the end of this agenda session, and it's really important you have your clarifying questions answered before you go into discussion. But I want to make sure that I have all of the speakers registered now so that we can prepare to move on in the agenda. So Kelwin Davies, microphone 2.
Kelwin Davies, Youth Forum from Chinook Winds. I was just wondering how the truth-telling and reconciliation will be put into action.
Ingrid?
Some of that is outlined actually quite well in the General Secretary's proposal. And so because the General Secretary references this proposal as an instigating factor in that work, it is our hope that some of the actions that are outlined in the General Secretary's proposal, which are completely in line with the PMO2 proposal, are laid out there.
Which is the General Secretary's proposal? What is it called?
GS07.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no more requests for clarifying questions, I'll turn it back to Kenji, and thank you, Ingrid.
We've completed our slate, our docket, so I'll turn it back to you, moderator.
Thank you, Kenji. All right, friends, we have gone over time and we have important pieces of work to do. And so I'm just going to make a quick announcement around break time. We are going to have a 5-minute break at tables. And so I just invite you to, yeah, relax, Taylor. So that is coming, and one of the key decisions that you will make is who is going to be our next moderator. So Taylor is on stage to join Kenji, but before we move into the prayers surrounding this decision, a few details. You will receive the ballot in the Chime platform. We did the test vote this morning where the names will be listed in alphabetical order. We know that some people are logged in on multiple platforms, so like if you have it on your phone and your iPad or your laptop, the Chime platform will only count the last of however many votes you cast. Your profile can only log 1 vote. So if you try to do it with 2, if you try to vote on your computer and your phone, it's only going to take your phone. So please just vote on 1. So, friends, with that said, let us prayerfully prepare for the ballot.
As we prepare our hearts for the undertaking of electing the next moderator of the United Church of Canada, let us receive these words from our Song of Faith. Dieu, sainteté et mystérieuse présence, au-delà de tout ce que nous en comprenons, au-delà de tout ce que nous pouvons dire. Et le désir de Dieu éternel et unique cesse d'être en relation d'amour, dans la reconnaissance de l'amour agaçant de Dieu. Nous ne pouvons que chanter. We sing of a church seeking to continue the story of Jesus by embodying Christ's presence in the world. We are called together by Christ as a community of broken but hopeful believers, loving what he loved, living what he taught, striving to be faithful servants of God in our time and place. Our ancestors in faith bequeath to us experiences of their faithful living. Upon their lives, our lives are built. Our living of the gospel makes us part of this communion of saints, experiencing the fulfillment of God's reign, even as we actively anticipate a new heaven and a new earth. We are each given particular gifts of the Spirit for the sake of the world. God calls all followers of Christ to Christian ministry. In the church, some are called to specific ministries of leadership, both lay and ordered. Some witness to the good news, some uphold the art of worship, some comfort the grieving and guide the wandering, some build up the community of wisdom, some stand with the oppressed and work for justice, to embody God's love in the world. The work of the church requires the ministry and discipleship of believers.
With gratitude, the church receives these nominees for the office of moderator. The Reverend Dr. Samuel Dunsoko from the Council Regional Nagahaga. The Reverend Dr. Sherry DeNovo from Shining Waters Regional Council. The Reverend Dr. Kimberly Heath from the Eastern Ontario Outaouais Regional Council. The Reverend Sungmin Young from Western Ontario Waterways Regional Council. And the Reverend Dr. John Pentland from Chinook Winds Regional Council.
The Manual of the United Church of Canada informs us of what the responsibilities of the moderator are in section D 4.1.3. As the senior elected officer of the United Church, the moderator has the following responsibilities. Giving leadership. The moderator gives leadership to the United Church, especially in spiritual things, quickening in the hearts of the people a sense of God as revealed in Christ, and heartening and strengthening the whole United Church. Presiding. The moderator presides at the meetings of the General Council, its executive and its sub-executive. Visiting. The moderator visits throughout the United Church, giving sympathetic guidance and counsel and reporting to the General Council and its executive. Serving as spokesperson. The moderator serves as the primary spokesperson and representative for the United Church.
Let us seek God's guidance together through prayer. Holy God, in all ages you have raised up faithful shepherds to guide the church. Et nous sommes reconnaissants envers les nombreux modérateurs et modératrices qui ont servi avec compassion, compétence et grâce, habilités par votre Saint-Esprit. We recognize the sacred privilege with which we have been entrusted to discern your will in selecting our next moderator. We give thanks for each of these nominees who have been lifted up to us from across the church. Whether they are ultimately selected or not, we honor them as being esteemed leaders within our whole denomination. Seeking your wisdom, we turn to Jesus Christ, the head of the church, who has taught us to pray these words, written upon our hearts and now shared in the language most familiar to us. Amen. Please rise in body or spirit. In this selection, we put aside our own will for the church in favor of God's divine will, that it may be done on earth as it is in heaven. I think we need the responsive slide up. We finished the Lord's Prayer in silence. There we go. Please rise. Okay. In this selection, we put aside our own will for the church in favor of God's divine will, that it may be done on earth as it is in heaven. Guide our selection by your Holy Spirit, O God. Amen. You may be seated. I now invite the nominees present with us in person to meet Cheryl Ann at the back of the hall. And I invite each of you, as that happens, to take a moment of prayerful reflection before we open the vote on chime. So friends, I declare the first ballot for the election of the moderator open. You will have 3 minutes to cast your vote. You may now go into the chime platform if you are a voting commissioner and cast your vote. And I think we were going to put a 3-minute timer on the screen. Just a reminder, if you're having tech problems, to raise your hand and a volunteer will come find you. So again, friends, we have just about 30 seconds left. If there's anyone else that's experiencing tech difficulties, could you please raise your hand so we make sure that we get you the help that you need? All right, friends, the voting has come to a close. I realize that we did not make clear what would happen after the voting. Unlike voting on proposals, we will not tell you the results right away. In fact, I can't even see the results. They will be validated by our scrutineers team, and then the chief scrutineer will communicate to the nominees. And I understand we have to figure out the process for also informing our nominee who is not with us in person. But we will inform the court of the results of the first ballot before you are dismissed into discussion groups. And so we have some other pieces of business to attend to now. All right. If I can invite Taylor, Franklin, and Kenji to come to the side of the stage. What? Oh, Taylor and Franklin to come to the sides of the stage. As we think of the role of moderator, we want to take a moment to thank my predecessor, the very Reverend Richard Bott, and invite him to come forward. As you know, General Council 44 was entirely online, and we didn't have a time of official thank you for him at the close of that General Council, and so I will turn the microphone over to the General Secretary. And Taylor. Shh. There's a process for announcing things like that. Is the Very Reverend Richard in the court? Can you come forward? Oh, here he comes.
Well, you can stand there and then we can. Okay. Moderator, it's my distinct pleasure on behalf of the General Council to offer our gratitude and thanks to Dr. Richard Bott for his service as the 43rd General Secretary. Let me start again. I'll blame that on time zones. 43rd Moderator of the United Church of Canada. As the moderator, as you've indicated, because the last General Council was an online council and we didn't have adequate process of saying thank you to Richard for his service and ministry. Richard was the first moderator I got to work with as General Secretary, and he and the search committee is partly responsible for my being here, as he chaired the search committee for the General Secretary. I had been on the, as part of the executive team at the General Counsel Office, had seen the ways in which the various moderators were supported and worked with over the years. And so I wasn't quite sure how my particular role as General Secretary and working with a new moderator for the first time. But I have grown and I grew to appreciate the sense of who Richard was and what he brought to the role. One of the tasks that moderators have to do is to sign the ordination and commissioning certificates. Moderators also send letters of condolences to families of clergy folks. Moderator always also sends letters of anniversary and celebration to clergy. Some of us have argued in the office we should just have electronic signatures and put on these documents. Richard taught me, and by his practice, that this was a critical part of the two letters of condolences to ministers' family. This, for Richard, was a critical part of what it meant to offer spiritual leadership in the life of the church. And I deeply appreciate it. And those of you who were ordained or commissioned during Richard's time, I hope you know that he held you in prayer as he signed those certificates and continued to hold you in prayer as you offer ministry. Richard offered to us as a church an individual who was committed to praying for the life of the church and for the individuals who gave leadership in the life of the church, and I was incredibly grateful. Richard's love for liturgy and good liturgy. We've had some interesting conversations about liturgy that we've experienced together. But certainly one of the things he has brought to the life of the church is this importance of the liturgical life of the church and framing liturgy in a way that invites us into life and into the power of the Spirit. Many of you have benefited, and if you continue to follow Richard on Facebook, you know he continues to offer his gift of liturgy. A third thing that Richard taught me, and some of you may not know, that Richard took seriously the church's commitment to building reconciliation and working with the Indigenous church. He demonstrated an incredible sensitivity to the Indigenous church community. He was always conscious of seeking the right and understanding the right protocol. He made space to ensure that the leadership of the Indigenous church had its place and played a role in the life of the church. Another gift that Richard offered to us was an understanding of social media. And in many ways, was an incredible gift to the church over the time of his ministry as moderator. But the thing I want to lift up, which was when I became General Secretary, two things kind of motivated me. One was the importance to offer leadership to the life of the church. The recognition that in some ways, as I'll say this and I'll get into trouble, that we downplay leadership in the life of this church. And so I came, and one thing I was clear with the search committee that if I was called, I would offer leadership. And the second thing was that we needed a clear sense of who we are and where we were going as the United Church. And as a moderator, Richard encouraged and supported and nudged to help me understand how to offer leadership in the life of the church. But more particularly, Richard was part of the team that worked on developing the call and vision, the 6 words we hold so dear: deep spirituality, bold discipleship, and daring justice. So Richard, on behalf of this community, I want to say thank you for the many gifts that you have offered to us and for the ways in which you have enabled us as a church to move forward, to lay the foundation for a future, and a reminder that we are prophets of a future not of our own. Thank you very much.
And friends, I missed a step on the very bottom page, very bottom of the last page of my script, which is we had a quick video to play. So Richard, if you could stay up there with General Secretary, maybe you could just sit down for a sec.
Hello, the grace of Jesus Christ be with you. I'm Richard Bott. I'm moderator of the United Church of Canada. Oh my. Let's build the body of the church in a way that we can celebrate each other's hopes, dreams, and successes. That we can really live Jesus' call to love one another as I have loved you. Now is the time to make history. Christ's peace be with you. Alleluia. Now, that's sweet.
Thank you, my friends. No, I do. Richard says just thank you. All right, Taylor. No, yes, yes, no? Franklin first, sorry.
All right. Well, Taylor won't be speaking with you today. I was told, take all the time I need. Friends, siblings, partners, at GC45 here, we take equity seriously. But we also know that not everything that goes sideways is an equity concern. So in the spirit of clarity and a little levity, here are a few light-hearted guides. 1, the coffee temperature is off. Cold coffee is a tragedy, but not systemic oppression. The next one is, you disagree with someone's theology. Welcome to the United Church of Canada. Debate is holy, Disrespect is not. You weren't called on to speak yet. The moderator's list isn't a conspiracy. It's equity-informed rotation. So thank you, everyone, for filling out the poll last night. Please continue to do so throughout GC45. Your wisdom helped to shape the work we are doing in real time. We also wish to thank those who come to us and trusted us with their concerns, their queries and questions, and trust us to hold it with the highest degree of dignity, and we promise we will continue to do so. Now, last night, I gave you a word. Anyone remember that word? To put, what is it? Boundless. We'll be having boundless conversation, boundless disagreement, boundless opinions, and so on. So continue as you have been doing to show boundless grace, boundless compassion, boundless forgiveness, understanding, and love. And further in my note, I want to say thank all of you and all of us who did the work to bring the church to a place where we began today with a powerful and heartwarming service of apology to Two-Spirit and LGBTQIA+ community. The work, as the General Secretary said, has just begun. Another thing we noticed that was reported to us is that about inclusive language. We receive feedback that the language in some of our spaces is predominantly masculine. While nothing is wrong with masculine language, let us be attentive to using inclusive language that reflects and affirms the diversity of our community as best as we can. We've also received feedback about font size and images. We report that to the tech team, and we hope that has been resolved. If you're still having issues with font sizes and image, please report them so we can continue to ensure that you have the best participation we can. There is a concern about our equity aspiration. This is where we all come in and we all play a role. Let us check in with ourselves and hold one another with compassion and accountability. You have all the equity aspirations at your fingertip. Let us use them, because if you don't practice it, then we can all worry we won't meet them. So this is your reminder to practice them to alleviate many of our concerns. At the microphone, we value voices and perspective. Whether agree or disagree, our responses can sometimes signal approval and disapproval for others. Let me encourage us for in-house family conversation. Be mindful how we respond, so every voice feel heard and respected. If we choose to applaud, let us do so for all speakers, or hold a shared silence so no one feels singled out. You know, sometimes someone speaks, we applaud, another person speaks, we're silent. That can unintentionally silence voices who feel like they're not appreciated. Table conversation, let's ensure that the discussion creates space for all voices. Some participants, especially introverts, may need a pause before speaking or a gentle nudge in an intentional, invitational way. Friends, this is what I have to share with you. And if you see anything else that has not been named, please let us know, and we can report that to the wider group or the respective team that can help us to have the most meaningful and engaging meeting possible. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Franklin. At this point, I will ask the Encore team to push out the equity poll for today. I see a hand raised for tech support at table 4. I see another couple of hands raised for tech support. All right, thank you so much. Before we do final announcements, I'm going to ask us to move into communicating the results of the first ballot for moderator.
Thank you, Moderator. After the first ballot, the following nominees will move on to the second round of voting in the election of the moderator-elect: Kimberly Heath, John Pentland, and Samuel Dansoko.
Sherry DeNovo and Sungmin Young, thank you for your faithfulness in answering God's call to leadership in the life of the wider church. We also offer gratitude to everyone who has supported you in the process. Please know that we highly regard the discernment of Shining Waters Regional Council and the Western Ontario Waterways Regional Councils for sending us faithful, wise, and talented leaders for consideration to the office of moderator.
Amis en Christ, prions. Dieu d'amour, nous rendons grâce pour Chéri et Sangmin, for their devotion to the church and the gifts they have offered to us. O God, help us to preserve our unity as the body of Christ in the ongoing work of this General Council, and as we continue to discern who shall serve as the next moderator of our united church. Amen. All right, friends, we have some announcements to make before we move into discussion groups.
Concluding our time with discussion groups, you'll be invited to make your way out for our dine around. So for anyone who would like a map of Calgary to get to your dine around location, you can also use your phone, a map on your phone as well, but there are physical copies of maps at the information desk. Your dine around restaurant will be listed under the dine around section of the agenda on your device in the Chime platform. You should be at your restaurant by 6:30 p.m. For our global ecumenical and interfaith guests, along with certain staff, you are invited for dinner at the Hyatt across the street. We're meeting together. Those folks are meeting in the Marriott lobby, and they will meet at 6:15 at the Marriott lobby and then make their way to the restaurant. Before you break from your discussion groups and go to dinner, please say the grace as a group that has been provided to the discussion group leaders.
And announcement about the next little piece of work that you still have to do before you go dine around. Discussion group time after. For note takers, the Way Forward Committee needs the notes from your discussion groups as soon as possible and no later than 9 p.m. For everyone, tomorrow at lunch we will be taking another group photo, creating a 2025 version of the famous 1925 picture of the first General Council, so come press ready. Not many social media influencers will be able to brag about having such an opportunity as you will tomorrow. You can smile for this one, but maybe not if we're recreating 1925. People seemed so much more dour back then, and male. Now, sure.
Pardon me, I had one more announcement as well. As you're dismissed from this place and you're going to your discussion group, take all of your personal effects with you. The linens will be changed on the tables at the end of each day, so you need to take all of your personal belongings with you to your discussion group and then elsewhere before you go to supper, probably. Sorry, Kenji, go ahead.
Now, I am going to confuse you immensely right now because you are about
Friends,
to...
I know it's been a